In this, you're given a quadratic function in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So when you differentiate a quadratic function, it will always look like a line. So the line of this quadratic function is the black line, and there's a couple of things to remember here. So the derivative of the red function at the black line, the point directly above or below the turning point of that function is where the line will cross the x-axis. So this point here is directly above this point. And the other thing to remember is you always read a graph from left to right. So this graph is decreasing here, from here to here. And because it's decreasing, the derivative of that function will be below the x-axis. So that's why this part of the line is below the x-axis, and it's increasing from here onwards. So that means after the turning point, the line or the derivative is above the x-axis. If we change that function to be, so slightly change that here. So again, it's still a quadratic function. It's still, this time the coefficient of the x squared is negative. The derivative is still a line because when you differentiate x squared, you get 2x. Again, because there's a max point this time, the point directly below that max point is where the derivative crosses the x-axis. This slope is increasing. That's why its line or the derivative is above the x-axis for where the original quadratic is increasing, and this quadratic is decreasing here. So that's why the line here is below the x-axis. And the same thing applies for cubics. So that's a cubic equation. The derivative of a cubic, again, 2 points to remember. So this will be a positive cubic function because the right arm is pointing upwards, meaning its derivative will be a u-shaped function. The derivative of a cubic is always a quadratic because x cubed becomes 3x squared. And the two roots of that quadratic are the points directly above and below the max and min. So where it cuts the x-axis is directly below the max point here, and the other root, or where it cuts the x-axis, is directly above this min point here. Other things to remember then is because we read it from left to right, this cubic, the red function, is increasing here. So it's increasing from here to here. So that means that the quadratic is above the x-axis. From the turning point onwards, it's decreasing, meaning the quadratic is below the x-axis. So it's decreasing between this point and this point. That means that the quadratic is from directly below the max point and directly above the min point here. The quadratic is below the x-axis. And again, it's increasing here, meaning the quadratic is above the x-axis. Again, if we were to rotate that function or to draw it slightly differently, the same rule will apply there. So if we had something like, let's go with this one here again, very quickly. So again, this is increasing here. The root of the quadratic is directly below this max point. The root is directly above this min point. The quadratic is above the x-axis when the function is increasing and below the x-axis